Army, Navy, Marine Corps. A place where people train and battles are fought. Blood, sweat, tears. Ghosts? Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and let's march right in front and face our fears with 4 of these ghost stories.
Strange encounter while deployed. When I was in Afghanistan, I used to see weird dark shapes moving around. It was when I was on patrol. We called them rafts because you could barely see them with the NVGs, and they just showed up as cold on thermal. When we tried to tell others about it, they attributed it to sleep deprivation or stress. Since I've been out, I have heard stories about locals summoning demons or jinns to protect the villages. Maybe the stories were true. We were deployed to southern Afghanistan, and one night, we had set up this position to secure a site, and it was around 2 in the morning and only me and the gunmen were awake. I'm just scanning pretty zoned out when a figure stepped out of the corner about 75 yards away. He was a man size taller than a regular Afghan, but hey, remember this is all through night vision on a semi-bright night, and he appeared to be a human. Then the thing turned and looked right at me with eyes so bright my night vision started to burn out, meaning it was so bright it was burning the system, usually done only by really fucking bright shit like the sun. So that freaked me out, and I pulled my NVGs off and those eyes were like the neon red blood. Blood red right as the sun. So this freaks me out, and I pull my machine gun over and train the thermal optic on it, and those eyes were so hot it started to burn out that optic. But his body was so cold. He stood out from the background, which is really weird. I slowly loaded it, and then the eyes moved like he cocked his head at me and turned and walked off. And was gone. I didn't say a word of this while we were there, or to anyone in the army since we've gone back. Camp Pendleton. This might be long and full of spelling errors, as I am on my phone. I'm currently deployed and don't have a computer and have shitty Wi-Fi. Anyways, when I was a young Marine corporal stationed at Camp Pendleton with the 2nd Battalion 4th Marines, I was put on temporary duty with the area camp guard. Each area of Pendleton has an area camp guard. I was in the 62 area camp guard. There was a post at the motor pool, one at the armory, and a roving patrol. At night, there are 2 guards at the motor pool and 2 at the armory, and they're all alone. We had always heard stories of the motor pool being haunted. I had never seen anything unusual, and I had been on camp guard once before when I was a PFC. So a few months in, another guy and I are at the motor pool in the middle of the night. We're just BSing around, and then the other guy says, "Look up there," and is pointing to the 2nd story of one of the big motor pool buildings. I look up and can see the silhouette of someone standing there at the window. I should mention that the room was dark, but the hallway lights were on. We radio it into the guard shack and say we're going to investigate further. We searched the whole building and didn't find anybody. We go back down and look up at the window and the silhouette is gone. Freaked us out. Also, most of the officers on the 2nd floor had motion sensor lights, and we would always see them turning on, but that could have been anything, I guess. A few weeks later, I'm back at the motor pool with a different guy. We had already told everyone on guard about the other night. Some were skeptical, and some were curious. Anyways, there are hundreds of machines in our motor pool, and about an hour into our shift, we heard one start up. These military machines don't have keys, just a knob you turn to start it. So we walked back to the machines to find one running and we shut it off. We figured it was just some drunk Marine who had got through a hole in the fence and were fucking around. The strange thing was that the machine was extremely hot, like it had been running for hours and not minutes. We got off post and mentioned it to some of the guys who were awake. One of the Marines, Ben, is part Indian and his wife is full-on Native American. And he totally believes in spirits and things like that. He tells us he's gonna get a Ouija board for our next shift. Skip 2 days later to our next shift, and Ben has got the Ouija board. About 6 of us go down to the motor pool and go into the building where we first saw the guy. Ben schooled us on the proper use of a Ouija board, and we got to it. I've never used a Ouija board before, but I've seen one used before. He said his wife and his mother had made this Ouija board. Anyways, we used it. I'm not sure if this is how you would word it, but we made contact with a guy and found out he had been a sergeant in the army. We had been told that at one point in time, the army had cavalry on our area of the base. Horses. We didn't ask how he died. Ben told us you could never ask that question. But we did ask for a sign that he was there. We waited for a minute or two, and then one of the windows closed down. This kind of window you have to push in and then push up. That freaked us out. I don't think we asked any more questions. We just closed out the board and got the hell out of there. The only other strange thing that I could remember was that I would get sleep paralysis, but only in the guard shack. We had a bunk room with a bunch of beds in it, and I remember waking up a few times and not being able to move at all. It was some weird stuff that happened to us. Just thought I'd share it. I'm going to sleep now. When I wake up in a few hours, I'll answer any questions and whatnot, if there is any. Later. The push. So I went through Camp Pendleton as a recruit back in 2001. I forget which barracks it was, but late night, about a week after we got up from there, I was on fire watch. 2 times that night, several toilets flushed on their own, and one of the shower units came on full blast. I figured it was a DI trolling us, so I paid extra close attention to the shower area. Not a single person walked in or out of that area other than me. It happened one more time before my watch was done. I heard from a couple of other recruits that the same shit happened to them on their late night fire watch, yet nobody ever saw a single person. And on that first late night hump they take you on, I ended up screwing my ankle up pretty badly, and we got to a huge hill. I swear to this day that the recruit behind me was pushing on my pack and my shoulders to help me up the hill. When I finally got to the top, the guy behind me was about 30 feet behind me and was also struggling. He says he wasn't anywhere near me the entire time. I 100% agree that Camp Pendleton is haunted. Military spirit never dies. I'm actually writing this on the behalf of my husband. He's still a little weirded out by his experience. I believe he has been a skeptic for a while, whereas I have had my own experiences and was excited to hear that he believes this is above and beyond normal. Here is a little background. He is in the United States military and is stationed on a base that was once used as an African American basic training camp back in 1945. It is still in use today as a schooling facility. All of the original buildings still stand, most are condemned. The building where this took place was used as the brig in 1945, or as we know it, the jail. It is now used as a communications building. This story actually happened tonight. I just got off the phone with my husband, who is on duty, and he was taking a dinner break. His friend had left leftovers in their office fridge, which is in the communications building I mentioned. He has keys to this building, which was locked, indicating that no one was working this late at night. My husband walked into the main hallway and was searching for his key to open his office when he heard each door down the hallway open and close within 5-second intervals between them. Each door is also locked each and every night when office hours are over. The last door that opened and closed on its own was right in front of my husband, who physically watched the door do this. Mind you, all the doors were locked. He heard the knob pop the lock, open, and close again. As this wave came towards him, he glanced through the glass of his office door and watched all of the computers turn on to their startup screen. All of the computers are shut down nightly. As the last door opened and closed, my husband instantaneously felt as if he was burning up, as if he was sitting in front of a furnace. Well, needless to say, my husband hightailed it out of there and does not want to go back. Unfortunately, he works there, so I hope he takes notice if the computers are still on tomorrow.